Hi, I'm Max Keiser. This is the Keiser Report. Hey, we're kicking off summer solutions. Every summer we talk about the solutions. And instead of dwelling on the problems, we got answers. We've got solutions. Stacy.
Max, well, I'll show you a problem and why Bitcoin fixes this, why Bitcoin was the solution. It is the ultimate solution that fixes many things, as you and I have discussed for the past 10 years, but it's becoming more and more obvious why. Well, Kim Kardashian, she's an advisor to many politicians and presidents and sort of that sort of thing with her various quips on social media and meetings with presidents as well. She had said something which I realized that maybe central banks may have been paying attention to and why our problems persist. She had said, if you can fix a problem with money, it's not really a problem. Hence, they keep throwing money at our problems and they don't disappear because that was never good advice, right? You just can't throw money at a problem and make it disappear.
So, right. The printing will continue until morale improves. This is the facile thinking of an Insta celebrity concatenated out of the imagination of a network executive who got really bored one day and decided that they didn't want to pay for talent. They were going to print money and create a fiat celebrity and then pump that up with more, not only money, but other things. Pump it up. You've got to pump it up, right, Kim? And the bigger the pump, the bigger the celebrity and the more money printing that's happened. And the result is what we call the K-shaped recovery. Massive billionaires versus entrenched underclass and poverty in America. Thanks, Kim.
She did, of course, pump up her. Right?
I'm hoping people caught the double entendre there. The pump it up. You've got to pump it up. But, some guys like that.
Some guys like that. We're going to get to the Hamptons in the second half, and that's the sort of thing you see in the Hamptons as well. But, when Summer Solutions started a few years ago, one thing that was often talked about by the likes of Michael Hudson and Steve Keen was a debt jubilee. And, of course, a debt jubilee, wiping out the debts of the debtors, basically annihilates, like it hurts the creditors, i.e. the Wall Street banks, the private equity, the hedge funds, all the elite. That never happened. So what we're seeing today instead are the results. They've made their choice. Joe Biden is there to deliver the choice. He's always been a spokesperson essentially for, a politician for the credit card industry, which is the pinnacle in terms of Cantillon effect that we've talked about. The elite get 0% money or 1% money. The schmucks and the deplorables get 20% money on their credit cards, right? Credit on their credit cards. So, everybody is now talking, even central bankers are talking about inflation, perhaps hyperinflation coming. So in a way, I'm considering this what we see in the cryptocurrency markets, i.e. money that's not as good as Bitcoin. What you see is a thing called a rug pull. So this hyperinflation is a rug pull. They're like, they're basically pumping this up. They have the assets, which are real assets, hard assets like property, land, Modigliani's, as you often talk about, gold, Bitcoin. The wealthy and the elite have these things, and that is going to go up in value while they're pulling the rug under the US dollar. And we've seen that, as we've mentioned, with the IMF talking about a new Bretton Woods coming and the WEF talking about a great reset. So I'll tell you what a rug pull is, just in case you don't know. A rug pull is a malicious maneuver in the cryptocurrency industry where crypto developers abandon a project and run away with investors' funds. Abandon the project.
Right. Exit scam. The biggest exit scam is Ether. And then there's this other one, Cardano. These are exit scams or rug pulls. And XRP. Elon Musk did a rug pull with Doge recently. He went on Saturday Night Live and pumped the price like Kim Kardashian's Ashian and then did a rug pull. So it's a cheap man's version of a Ponzi scheme. Bernie Madoff managed to keep a legitimate Ponzi scheme going for many years. These Elon Musk-style rug pulls are cheap imitations.
Well, those are cryptocurrencies. What I want to really focus on is that, the entire crypto market, including Bitcoin, was like 2.3 billion. The entire US dollar market, in terms of all the derivatives, all the credit, all the debt, all the cash, is quadrillions. So here they're doing a rug pull. They're abandoning the project, called the US dollar as a reserve currency, as the grid of the global internet, of the global economy. So you're seeing that. You're seeing them. That's why you're seeing them talking about the Great Reset. That's why you see them talking about a new Bretton Woods. That's why you see them printing like this. That's why you see Joe Biden putting forth a $6 trillion budget. This is a rug pull. They're pulling the rug. Bitcoin fixes this. This is what we've been saying for 10 years.
Right. The US dollar is the ultimate rug pull. Like anytime you move off the gold standard, you're talking about a Ponzi scheme by definition, because you've got to keep printing to keep the base of the Ponzi going and to pay off the early investors with printing more money. And that's the ultimate Ponzi scheme is the US dollar, and the ultimate rug pull or trapdoor or exit scam is the US dollar. And a lot of people know it, and they're positioning themselves ahead of it. Bitcoin does fix this, because it brings back the equivalent of a gold standard, but it's much better than a gold standard. And the results will be quite dramatic. And this is all building up toward maybe July 4th. We'll see some epic kind of collapse in the dollar, which would be very kind of a big pageant, wouldn't it? It'd be great. It'd be the fireworks, American flag, and a US dollar rug pull. That could be fantastic.
Rug pulled on the 4th of July. Yes, that could be happening. And you know what? You know why I think Bitcoin forced their hand to do the exit scam now on the 50th birthday of the US dollar as an all fiat reserve standard? We're going to harken back. We're going to look back at the quote from Friedrich Hayek. Now, Friedrich Hayek was around during the last transition from an empire, the last Thucydides trap we saw, and the last collapse of a reserve currency, which was the British pound at the time, and wrote The Road to Serfdom. But he said something interesting back in 1984, and this is a quote from a Reddit thread of Bitcoin. "I don't believe we shall ever have a good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government. That is, we can't take it violently out of the hands of government. All we can do is by some sly roundabout way introduce something that they can't stop." So I'm going to then, from there, Hayek in 1984, turn to what Jason Furman recently was quoted as saying. Now, Jason Furman was an economic advisor to Barack Obama. And at that time, of course, Max and Stacy were also first starting here on Keiser Report in 2009 during the financial crisis. And they missed the opportunity, as we said, to kill Bitcoin at that time. Jason Furman, "I wish we had smothered this," meaning Bitcoin, "a decade ago before it grew into a $2 trillion monster. Digital currencies are all cons and no pros. Environment, crime, taking advantage of unaware investors. If they had any use at all, we could debate it, but they don't have any use at all."
Right. So the Hayek quote, very famous quote, and Bitcoin does satisfy what he talks about in that quote, and that the only way you could separate the state from money is through some sly kind of mirage or something that went unnoticed. And that's exactly what happened with Bitcoins. And now we've got a separation of state of money. The second quote refers to the fact that at the first few months of Bitcoin's birth, there would have been a moment of time maybe where the state could have done something to stop it. But it never did. And now it's hit escape velocity. And now every central bank in the world is going to go under. Every nation state will have to be reorganized around the fact that people now have their own wealth that's unconfiscatable. It's immutable. You can't censor it. Even, going back to when we were covering this in the early days in 2009, there was talk about allowing WikiLeaks to accept Bitcoin. But Satoshi, the famous originator, wrote in his notes that he thought it would draw too much attention to Bitcoin. So they did not overtly allow for WikiLeaks to go into Bitcoin, even though they were being censored by credit card companies and PayPal at that time.
Well, he says as well that Bitcoin has no use at all, whereas it provides the use case of a store of value, unconfiscatable store of value, uncensorable store of value for billions of people around the world. And on top of that, it provides incentives. It is more capitalist in terms of allocating capital. You don't want to just allocate your precious Bitcoin on dumb stuff and dumb investments like we've seen as the money printing continues because morale does not improve enough. In fact, what we've seen is an increase in mortality rates. Outside even the pandemic, what we've seen is the opioid overdoses. The preliminary numbers for last year is they were close to 90,000 opioid overdoses in the US versus like 70,000 the year before. So these are big increases in deaths of despair under what he thinks is the better system of printing money, which is causing the wealth and income gap.
Look, Bitcoin provides for everybody on Earth, for the first time, true private property. It gives property rights, private property rights to individuals in a way that's never, ever, 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 ever been available before. Up until Bitcoin, it was agreed between the state and the people that certain rights would be obeyed. And in every single case, going back 2,000 years, every single state has violated those rights and stolen people's property. And America is no different today. They're overtly stealing Americans' property by the hundreds of billions and trillions, and it's very sad. But Bitcoin allows not only Americans and Europeans, but Africans and Asians and South Americans, my people in Mexico, Mexico City, right on, Viva la Mexico. Property rights for the first time ever, therefore obviating the need for the state and obviously killing the need for any central bank.
Right. If you can fix a problem with money, it's not really a problem. You could fix these problems with Bitcoin money, but the fact is that the US dollar is not, and no fiat currency is money.
Let me correct your quote. This quote shouldn't read, if you can't fix it with money, it's not really a problem. The quote, to be accurate, should read, if you can't fix it with money, it's not really money.
Exactly. So the incentive structures, the look at what we're witnessing now as they're printing more and more money. We're seeing these just not only prices gapping up, but shortages exploding all over. And here's from Barron's, 10 ways to cash in on the shortage of just about everything. America's chicken sandwich war has the combatants scrambling for supplies. Breast prices have doubled this year. Chick-fil-A has run low on sauce. Burger King has had pickle problems. Jars, not cucumbers, are hard to come by. An isolated supply squeeze? Anyone who's building or remodeling a home or buying or renting a car or stocking up on pool chlorine or dog food knows better. In the land of plenty, there suddenly seems to be an everything shortage.
Right. The breast supplies are in shortage is not also a reference to Kim Kardashian. All right, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, more. Yeah, well, we're back. This is the Keiser Report Summer Solutions. My name is Max Keiser. I'm here with Stacy Herbert.
Right. So we were talking about shortages in the first half. I want to talk about oversupply in the second half and how money, the confusion of fiat money with money, and how it caused an oversupply. Well, it caused an oversupply of the elite. Overproduction of the elite. We've covered this before. That's a concept made popular by Peter Turchin. I believe he's at Wesleyan in Connecticut University. So as we've been printing all this money, and remember, the printing of the money is in order to fix the problem of the pandemic lockdowns and the wealth gap. Remember, that's what they say. That's why they printed all that money, the trillions of dollars, and they expanded on the Fed's balance sheet, but also the government debt. You know, the Treasury printed a whole bunch of bonds to send to people. Well, billionaire wealth reaching 20% of GDP, risk of overheating, says Gabriel Zuckman, and his research. This is just looking at the US. All countries are similarly bad, but in the US, as the center of the empire, right? Wealth of the top 400 wealthiest Americans is now close to 20% of GDP. It started at the pandemic at 15%. So as you see, it's gapping up. It's considered kind of racist to say, or evil to say that there was a good time in America, that a few decades ago things might have been better. Obviously, things were worse in many ways for women, for Black Americans. But if you look at what they were aiming for, what they're really talking about when people are talking about when America was great, look at this. Back in 1980, when we were teenagers and entering the workforce, the top 400 families owned less than 3% of US GDP. So that's what people are talking about. You can call it anything else, like, you know, that you're sexist if you are against the 20% of the GDP that the top 400 families have. Or you can say, well, you know, this is an economic structure that is ruining the country and the world. Like the financial system is ruining the world.
Right. Well, that number of 20% of America's GDP now is billionaires is going to go to 100% because that's called feudalism. And this is neo-feudalism. And we've been saying this for at least 5 years, that the money printing, because it doesn't go through the economy, it goes right into the pockets of the billionaires. Remember, you can clearly see that through the money velocity number, which keeps going down to zero, because the money doesn't get circulated. It just goes into the pockets of the neo-feudal class. And so it's going to go to 100% because politically, everyone's been disenfranchised. You know, the political machinations, the politics of representational government have been dismantled. They've been destroyed by design, by the billionaires, right? So the reason why Bitcoin is at tens of thousands of dollars a coin is because it's showing that the US dollar and other fiat money are already in a hyperinflationary collapse against Bitcoin. The only way anyone's going to survive the neo-feudalization of this economy in America and around the world is through unconfiscatable Bitcoin. Yes, there will be an incredibly difficult time dead ahead because we're entering into the fourth turning meets kind of like the Jim Jones massacre. If you remember that from the 80s. And going back to the Jim Jones, look that up, kids. The Jim Jones massacre, where we come up with the expression, oh, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Do a little research on where that comes from. So you've got Jim Jones meets the fourth turning, meets Jamie Dimon, meets Goldman Sachs. You put that all together, give it a shake, and that's what they're asking us to drink.
Well, combine all of those into the Hamptons, because I'm going to predict that that will be the hot spot of this problem of the overproduction of the elite. Because what Peter Turchin argues, and what we've covered here on the Keiser Report, is that when there are too many elite and the pie is fixed in terms of how much graft that you could take from the taxpayer and bailouts and free money from the taxpayer, they start going at each other. And one of the classic examples of that is Steve Bannon, who is an elite, who went to elite universities, was a multi-millionaire, and he turns against the elite. So you'll have more of that. You had that in the French Revolution period when the elites are starting to turn on each other. So here is the conflict in the Hamptons building up. And we've been following this because Max and I go out to Montauk, which is past the Hamptons. It's considered more like real. You have fishermen still there working all year long and stuff like that. But they're running out of room in the Hamptons. And those elites of the Hamptons, Southampton, Sag Harbor, East Hampton, Amagansett, they're pushing out into Montauk, Surf Lodge, preparing to turn people away as Hamptons summer ramps up. After a pandemic slowdown, the Hamptons are heating up again for this summer with sold-out hotels, packed rentals, endless helicopters, and sky-high prices on just about everything. Hotspot Surf Lodge in Montauk is so worried about the crowds, they're asking people to please stay away.
This is, again, feudalism. Everybody had to build their own castle, hire their own army. If you're going to defund the police, which, of course, the liberal elites are all about defunding the police to satisfy their oligarchic masters at Comcast, they're going to have to hire their own police force. And so they'll go to war with each other on East Hampton Beach or something like that. They'll be like the Baldwin's militia will be squaring off against the Perlman's militia and, some other, maybe Carl Icahn's militia and Steven Spielberg's militia will meet on Hampton Beach. And they'll re-engage and do battle with each other with slingshots, arrows, and copyright law, saying, I own the rights to this battle. No, I own the rights to this battle. I just sold to HBO. I'm making a miniseries. I'm the star. So it'll be like Disney meets Patton, right? So it's going to be Walt Disney meets Caligula in the Hamptons this summer. Coming soon to HBO.
Right. Well, that sounds like a good series. Of course, there was a series called The End, which is based out in Montauk. So as you see, they're all like working class out there. They were, and now you're seeing conflict. If you go on the Facebook pages of the Montauk pages, they're like, these Hamptons dudes better stay out. But there's just too many elite, and the exclusive entry into the exclusive schools. You saw that with the whole, parents bribing officials to get into schools thing. Now you're seeing it with these elite venues like the Surf Lodge, where the likes of Justin Bieber and stuff hang out when they're in town. It's just at the edge of Montauk and Hampton. So it's like acceptable to have some of them in there, but they're pushing in. So you're seeing conflict. It made me also think of course, we have elite overproduction in Saudi Arabia, right? There's like 7,000 princes and declining oil supply. So you have more and more princes to feed and palaces to build and jets to give them. And what happened? What did we see in the last few years when Prince Al Walid was hung by his feet in the Ritz? Of course, in the Ritz in Riyadh.
Yeah, that's coming to the Crab Shack in the Hamptons this weekend. Billionaires held suspended by their ankles and being whipped by their agents in an attempt to get even more work in this new HBO series. Caligula meets Walt Disney's version of The Sound of Music as told by those who have been weaned on fresh milk from the ewes that they keep on the farm.
We could see that if they tried to venture out as far as Gurney's or like Gossman's and Montauk. If you get out to Gossman's, like you're in real danger.
You need a Pied Piper who arrives with the fiat money Pied Piper pipe, and then all the billionaires march into the sea and drown. That would be, I think, the story I'm going to write is Showtime presents the Pied Piper of the Hamptons. Watch 30,000 billionaires march into the sea and drown. And the day is saved.
Well, it's certainly going to be hot, I believe, out in the Hamptons as the conflicts emerge between all the very entitled Karens who feel like they deserve, all the money that was printed and given to them, that they deserve something exclusive with that. But what they're noticing is that more and more people were actually given money by the Fed, and that they're having to compete now for space and live like a deplorable. So,
if everyone's a billionaire, then nobody's a billionaire.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying is it's getting to that point where they're starting to realize that, hey, I remember when having, $20 billion was like made me Ron Perlman, king of the Hamptons. Now it's like every schmuck in town, like stars of OnlyFans are buying houses.
OnlyFans stars.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, they're buying multi-million-dollar flats at the Hamptons for shaking their booty on OnlyFans, right? So how do you present an Academy Award-winning actor who's got his fingers in, Kim Kardashian's spandex can abide by this injustice?
Well, we have a whole bunch of more boondoggles coming up to possibly make you even more exclusive, to be able to offer like $100 billion for that apartment, the house on the beach that the OnlyFans stars are competing with. So we have the $6 trillion budget that Biden has planned. There is no plan to abolish the debt of the student debt. Remember, he used that to get into office.
That's a rug pull.
That's a rug pull. It was
Joe Biden, king of the rug pulls. Student debt forgiveness, rug pull. Universal health care, rug pull. There's Jimmy Dore on his show every night, chronicling Joe Biden's rug pull. And then the Young Turks are over there like, oh my God, it was a rug pull. We're so silly.
His rug pull, right? Of course.
Oh, yeah.
But
or it could be Ron Paul. He's got merkins on his eyebrows.
But so in the last minute and a half here, we're going to say, like, we're heading into the summer solutions. We're going to do a few episodes coming up, and then we'll take a break, return to normal programming, and then we're going to do some more summer solutions as the summer goes on. But obviously, Bitcoin fixes this. It fixes all the problems because you fix the money and you fix all the economic and monetary problems. You fix the billionaire thing, like the problems of the billionaires. Max's movie sees them all go into the sea. But I think Bitcoin is a more peaceful way to just like, that's the end of the first act, is just like Bitcoin fixes it and it's over. Like it'll be the first feature film to have one act. But we have James Howard Kunstler coming up. We have Marshall Auerbach. and we have Tyson Slocum. And the interesting thing is that they were all in our series called Front Running, and the Front Running series was looking at what the Democratic candidates for president were proposing at that time, and they all seemed really radical and really crazy ideas like MMT, UBI, debt forgiveness, and all that sort of stuff. Hyperinflation wasn't one of the solutions that was on offer, but that seems to be the solution that Joe Biden has introduced, and we think it's a bad solution. Bitcoin's a better solution. He seems to have a deep longing for the 70s. That's where he started his career, and maybe that's where he wants to end it.
Gotta pump it up. Hey, pump it up. Joe, gotta pump it up. Hey, oh, what? That's gonna do it for this special Summer Solutions entree with the main course, Max Keiser, and the dessert, Stacy Harbert. If you enjoyed this feast, stay tuned to other episodes coming your way. Until then, bye, y'all.